Yasula munju ya kanyomonyomo bwe ndikutandikwata mulala kanyomonyomo.
When we talked to the students about it, because they were having their classmates, and the classmates actually said these chaps had a lot of money. They had a lot of money. They were very bright students. Actually, one of them was very good at computer. And they would solve many things for their colleagues. So they were quite influential. They were quite influential. And I think that contributed to their success also in recruiting other people who saw these guys as promising something in, in life.
She was being looked for her involvement in that crime of being connected to ISIS. So she left school, but after realizing that one of her associates was apprehended in Kenya, now she started also hiding and running away.
So today you have ISIS members from dozens of countries. But as they've lost territory, that message of triumph, which was very necessary to their propaganda, is becoming more and more difficult. And so now they have more the message of, I would call it a suicide cult, right? Which is, we know it's ending, but let us show these people that our idea and our ideology and our aim will never die.
There is an underground system of female emancipation taking place in the jihadi crusade. In the dark world of clever messaging to attract more females than any terror group in history, ISIS has managed to control female battalions in their fighting territories. Many of the women who joined ISIS portrayed themselves as strong women fighting for a divine cause.
These women they are dying alone because they have nobody to talk to.
The search for the light that ISIS was embracing female empowerment was cleverly crafted to attract more women to join their global network, breaking borders beyond Syria and Iraq.
We are right on the border between Syria and Israel, and I can imagine the challenge and the difficulty of securing this border. As far as my eyes can see on the horizon right there, there's a line that cuts between Israel and Syria. So we're just looking at Syria right now, and as I'm talking, there's heavy gunfire from a distance. I can tell that's heavy artillery, the explosions, the smoke, the skyline is a bit hazy, you can't see clearly, but they said this is a very, very hostile area. Anything can happen anytime, and it shows the difficulty of trying to secure the borderline.
Entering Syria from any point was just too dangerous. Even though coalition forces have vanquished ISIS fighters, the area is still very volatile. As I navigated through these hills and secret underground tunnels at the Syrian border, the passageways reveal a labyrinth of underground corridors where Israeli forces have tried to hold any fighters from crossing over and have successfully pushed them back to their areas of control. On the walls of secret tunnels used as a cover during the fighting, soldiers have had long days and sleepless nights holding fort against any insurgency. Names and dates and messages from those who've seen the ugly face of the war on terror serves as a reminder of who was here and when. Most messages were written in 2016, when the Syrian bloodbath was at its peak as an offshoot of the Arab Spring in 2011. From the Golan Heights, it was clear to me the war is far from over. And with the sounds of explosions and gunfire, stability will take more time and demand great will.
ISIS was a so-called state and has its border. Once it claimed victories in the battles and after being defeated has turned into decentralized groups.
Analysts say the Syrian government's successful recapture of main cities and towns brings the country's counter-terrorism campaign to a new phase.
Many valleys.
Staring into Lebanon from the Israeli border, the images I saw were of normal Lebanese settlements under the tight grip of Hezbollah. Mohammed Abdi joined Makueni County Referral Hospital in 2015 from Afia House, 2 weeks late from his official starting date. It was his first internship center, and like any other intern, there was nothing weird about him, but his documents had discrepancies. NTV Investigates found Abdi's file, and in his records, only one document was attached to his posting order. This document from the hospital's medical superintendent, dated 12th May 2015, shows the official communication in an internal memo asking Abdi to produce at least 5 documents: his academic certificates, next of kin, birth certificate, retention certificates for doctors, and other licenses.
Yeah, I did send him for those documents, but we gave him a reporting letter to take back to Afia House, just to show that he had reported and that he was ready to start his internship.
And that was the first mistake. Going into his file, 11 documents were missing. 13th August 2015, and another note was written asking him to bring his KRA form, birth certificate, living certificate, both from his primary and secondary school and university, acceptance letter. A copy of his ID, among other documents, were also requested. 3 months later, Abdi had not produced any of those documents. The hospital management didn't even know he had studied in Uganda.
We did not know because he had not furnished us with copies of documents as is required when reporting. And when we gave them the chance to go and pick up the documents, to date, he's never furnished us with the documents.
Is that common, or do you think there's a mistake in his posting with no documents and he's just admitted?
I think the anomaly started from Afia House, where he was posted as an intern.
The rare case of Abdi's posting letter to Makueni County Referral Hospital without proper documents from Afia House is under investigation.
It's not your choice. You never choose a posting, an internship center. They usually, you're just allocated the center, but his was particularly interesting, given the timing and given the location.
Sources say his posting in a remote area could have been a cover to plan and execute the biological attack without raising any suspicions from local authorities. Abdi was supposed to go through 4 rotations in his internship. It normally takes 1 year, according to the Kenya Medical Practitioners and Dentist Board requirements. Despite gaining practical experience in surgical and clinical training, he just couldn't get along with other doctors.
He could issue threats to his seniors, and that one sort of kept guys away from him.
Abdi rented a room in this apartment block not far from the hospital. The caretaker said he was a quiet man and always locked himself in the house and never interacted with neighbors. This document shows his tenancy agreement dated 1st September 2015, where he paid 10,000 shillings as deposit and for the first time attached a copy of his ID which shows he was born in Wajir East in 1990. Back in Uganda, Nuseiba was also on internship at Kampala International University Teaching Hospital. She was communicating with Abdi but didn't know she was already on the anti-terror police radar from Kenya.
She was radicalizing most of the youth and the students she was with. So we liaised with our colleagues in Kenya, and this is a problem not only centered in Kenya but in the region. So as we are aware that you can never commit a crime in this region and say you'll go away with it. So that's how she came part and parcel of our net.
It's later on.
Abdi at Makueni County Hospital was also on the doctor's radar.
We witnessed several malpractices clinically, and we kept on wondering why someone would make such decisions. Like I remember very well an incident where a mother came with what we call a fresh stillbirth. That is, the baby was already dead in the mother's abdomen, and the only way out to get the baby out was to induce or even do a C-section in order to remove the dead baby. But his opinion was to do what we call destructive surgery, as in decapitate the baby intrauterine and remove parts of the baby. And we found that one weird, although it's a practice, but we don't practice it anymore. We never thought why he would really opt for such.
The cracks had begun showing. Abdi had spent 3 months at the hospital as he worked on his plans to carry out the anthrax attack. He was being monitored closely by security agents, and there was one thing they wanted to get their hands on.
There was a bag he used to carry, a laptop bag. That one he never left anywhere, and he preferred the theater. There's a lounge at the theater where someone could plug in for power and access internet or even watch television. But most of the times he was on phone or laptop.
Sources private to the case have told NTV that Abdi spoke to 2 young ladies, cautioning them against reporting to work on a certain date believed to be the day he had picked to carry out the terror attack. The hospital was his first target. The other targets mentioned by another source was a church and a supermarket, though these are yet to be verified. Police said Abdi had planned to carry out the attack on Friday, 29th April 2016.
We were also on the list. That one heightened our consciousness.
As the anti-terror police moved in to arrest Mohammed Abdi in Uganda, the counter-terrorism police were also on high alert and met for a quick brief before they also moved in to arrest Nuseiba back in western Uganda, where she was on internship.
What we did was to give them access to the grounds. We said, well, do your job. We are all interested in the security, so just keep us informed. So they planted their intelligence around and were able to break the circuit.
The counter-terrorism police in Uganda gathered to move in and take their target, but the distance proved to be a challenge. Their base was in the capital, Kampala. Nuseiba was 5 hours away in western Uganda, and they had to drive all the way. As the undercover team traveled to where she had classes, phone calls between other operatives picked up, and police were on high alert. In a smart move, Nuseiba left her class hurriedly and went back to campus to pick her suitcase from the hostel. As Ugandan police drove to Kampala International University to arrest her, Nuseiba was on her way to Entebbe Airport. They passed each other on the road. By the time they arrived, she was gone. But at the airport, another undercover team of detectives was on standby, waiting for her.
She was being looked for her involvement in that crime of being connected to ISIS. But after realizing that one of her associates was apprehended in Kenya, now she started also hiding and running away.
Do you think she was tipped off?
These people, they are in contact 24/7. She could have learned about that through her other associates who are not yet arrested also.
I was surprised because a student who is supposed to be at the clinical site being arrested at the airport was, to me, shocking. Because the clinical site is hundreds of kilometers out of Kampala, and you wouldn't expect that a student would move so fast. And what surprised me still was that the students seemed to have had information that they were going to be looking for her.
Nuseiba was arrested at Entebbe International Airport with a boarding pass, ready to flee Uganda for Kigali, Rwanda. There was no drama at the airport as she surrendered to the police.
Professionally, that is also saddening that you would come to train to save lives and instead use the knowledge to take lives.
Her husband, Mohammed Abdi, was in his rented house and was also arrested without resistance and taken into custody. Two of Abdi's associates, Ahmed Hish and Farah Dagan, immediately went into hiding following Abdi's arrest, and police placed a bounty of 2 million shillings on them. They were also medical interns in Kitale. Inspector General of Police Joseph Boynet said the suspects were planning a large-scale attack akin to that of Westgate Mall with the intention of killing innocent Kenyans. Their network also included medical experts with whom they had planned to unleash a biological attack in Kenya using anthrax. Police later revealed their terror network within Kenya had spread as far as the coast region, North Rift, Western, as well as connecting other countries including Somalia, Libya, and Syria.
When you heard that Nuseiba and her husband were planning to carry out a biological attack on Kenyan soil, were you surprised by that?
Yes, I was. I was surprised because that is not a good, as in it's not a right thing to be done. And even if they used to talk about jihad and all that, I never expected them to go to such an extent of doing such a thing.
The students later noticed the patterns of movement, but that was, of course, in hindsight. After all, they say, oh, no wonder they were doing this and that, because they would move away for days, come back, and that probably, in my simple understanding, I thought they were just getting, say, funding or going for further training.
These people are not ordinary minds. They invest in technology, they invest in science, they invest in research, they invest in economics. So they want to be ahead of all others in all these areas. And as I said, over time they keep shifting in tactics.
Next on Hell's Bridal, those who joined the terror group and can't come out.
Kama unataka salama yangu, usipige simu, wewe tulia tu.
Akajiunga na kundi la ICC.
Then there are those who ended up becoming sex slaves for the fighters.
Ndio sasa wakaanza kunitumia because ile kupika mpaka ile wapika mara wakija walala na mimi.